Welcome to today's Pick a Card reading. Today's theme for the video is what are you learning while under quarantine? This wasn't to make light of the pandemic going on right now, but it's really just to help relating guidance to people that want to know what's going on for them personally. Obviously, while the collective is going through so many global and political and societal shifts right now. So there's going to be 5 different objects that you can see before you that correspond to a specific reading, and you pick the one that resonates most with you. For today, I'm going to use the Botticelli, the Golden Botticelli Tarot. I just got this within the past 2 weeks or so, and I really like it. So I think that this is going to be a really great oracle deck to work with today. So the first object is a white seashell. They're obviously all seashells, but I just felt called to use these today. This is number 1. This is number 2. It's a black seashell. And then number 3 is a really big one, stripes. Just see if that feels like this corresponds to the reading for you today. And then the 4th one is this orange one right here. It's small. It's got kind of a sunburst pattern. And then we also have this 5th one, which has some stripes bordering the outside. Okay, so we're going to start with number 1, and that is this pretty plain oval seashell. So I'm going to get started with shuffling the deck. Okay, so today's cards for group 1 are the 4 of Swords, 10 of Wands, and the Queen of Chalices. So I'm going to read all of these upright, and I'm reading them upright and without any supplementary Lenormand cards, because I am intuitive, so I can just see whether there are any upright meanings, any more negative meanings, any more complications to these cards like all of you have and group 1 has. So the first card that we have is again 4 of Swords, and then 10 of Wands, and the Queen of Chalices. So right now what I'm getting for some of you has to do with relationships. So the 4 of Swords, I'm getting the feeling that some of you have been going through sort of a rest period right now in regards to important relationships in your life. I'm getting that for the majority of you, these are romantic, but then I am getting a splash of familial, and they're showing me something else. They're showing me the 3 of Cups intuitively, which has to do with friendship. So different kinds of relationships on the table, but for the majority of you, romantic relationships are just going to be most applicable here. So the 4 of Swords has to do with taking a break. As I said, it's just been sort of a rest period and putting your mind sort of on the back burner because you've been dealing with all these different thoughts, especially the past several months. I'm getting you've been going through a period of healing and just rest because not much has been going on externally, and so you kind of have wanted your internal realm to match the circumstances going on. This is basically what you're going through at the present moment and just the state of mind that you're in. You're not necessarily eager to go into something else or to put yourself through any more pain or confusion. But with the second card, I am kind of getting more details on that with the 10 of Wands. I am getting just the fact that you have been feeling burdened, and Spirit is telling me that this cycle isn't necessarily complete yet. I'm getting that there is still ongoing struggles and responsibilities in regard to what you're carrying in light of this situation. So for some of you, I am getting an image of a hummingbird, and they're showing me intuitively the Ace of Cups from a different tarot deck that I use, and the Ace of Cups having to do with keeping your heart open. So the Ten of Wands here has to do with it feeling like a burden for you to keep your heart open. I feel that the life lessons that you've been going through, and I'm getting that this has been ongoing for at least the past couple years. For some of you, this may have gone on for several years, but I'm getting especially concentration. They're showing me like 1 to 2 in my mind's eye. So that has to do with the past 1 to 2 years. So I'm getting that there's been this cycle that has not yet reached completion, but may come full circle in a way this summer, where these ongoing tests and trials and tribulations that you've been going through are still going to kind of push at you this summer. And you're going to feel really tired and weary, as you've already been feeling. You've been trying to take a break, but some of these feelings are going to just resurge within the next few months. And so Spirit just really wants you to know that, and to kind of like take a deep breath and to carry some of this forward with you, and to carry all the things that you've learned in the past few months forward, because they're really going to help you at this time, and they really want you to keep reflecting on what it is you've learned, what is necessary for you to cope with the situation. It's sort of like, what different ways have you found that have helped you heal? What different ways have helped you cope in light of the specifics of your situation? Because again, like, they're going to almost like give you a test to see how much you've learned. It's really going to test your endurance and your capacity, because that is just really what the Ten of Wands focuses on. And you can see that, with the design of the card, it does generally show a person who is kind of like overwhelmed with their struggles and all the different wands that they've had to carry. So moving forward, the life lesson, and it's funny because they're also giving me the words like love lesson, have to do with the Queen of Cups. Like, she's going to embody the energy that Spirit wants you to embrace over the next couple months, especially when like all these further challenges come up that are going to be really resonant of your experience over the past couple of years. They're advising you with the Queen of Cups to remain compassionate, nurturing, and open-minded. They want you to, take it with a grain of salt that your experiences like may be mirrored and reflected and continued within this next phase of quarantine, these next few months that are going to develop from the time of filming. And so with the Queen of Cups, they're really advising you to have an open heart and have compassion, but they're telling me specifically in a way where you're not disrespecting and dishonoring yourself. They're saying there is a way where you can have sympathy and nurturing for this person or these people that you have a lot of love for, without disregarding personal space. I feel that the Queen of Cups is very empathetic and nurturing, but she also knows how to withdraw, because she at best understands her own boundaries, and she understands how important it is for you to protect your own heart and be sensitive to your own feelings. So she's saying it's both ways. The Queen of Cups here, she's saying that it's possible to love someone else and to love yourself as well. And it's about finding the middle balance between the two, because intuitively they are showing me the Temperance card, which is about finding balance and moderation between two different things. So I'm also seeing a person walk a tightrope, and they're showing me the Fool card intuitively, which means being open-minded as well as open-hearted, and seeing just what life has in store for you. They're telling you you don't necessarily know what's going to come next. So just be as open as possible to that. Don't be so guarded and wary. Know that you have grown and healed during this period, and that if you weren't ready for this next phase and this next set of challenges, then Spirit wouldn't have sent this to you. So they're just letting you know that they want to affirm how much more open your heart has become. And they're reminding you that all of this and everything in life is just intended for you to keep opening your heart and to really expand your capacity to love. And that includes yourself and others, of course, the collective and this planet. So these are your 3 cards. I hope all of that made sense. Again, that was group 1. And this is where you're at. This is sort of like what's to come. And this is what they're advising you to embrace, is the Queen of Cups. Okay, next up we have group 2 with the black seashell. So again, if you can see that, this one resonated with you, here is your guidance from Spirit for today, in regards to what is coming next for you, or what you've already been going through in this stage of, collective upheaval and personal change. Group 2, your cards are the Ace of Chalices. You can see that this is in focus. Ace of Chalices, Knight of Chalices, and we have the Hanged Man. So interesting that we have another one that pretty much screams relationships. But I'm getting the fact that this has to do with artistic relations as well. That's pretty interesting. This one seems to especially be a call out to artists. So I'm going to interpret this two ways. I feel like that there are probably some romantic undertones here, but there is also guidance for artists at this time. Artists who are undergoing a sort of transformative phase in light of this quarantine, in light of all these changes and these shutdowns and reopenings happening at this time. So the first card has to do with having an open flow, an open intuitive flow. This is where you're not overthinking. This is where you're utterly and totally receptive to whatever the universe is channeling to you in terms of your emotions, in terms of your intuition. This is a state where you are just really in positive flow with the universe. I'm getting that there's been some blocks within the past. It's a matter of weeks prior to this point. This may have been a period of several weeks where there may have been logistical issues. There may have been issues in terms of payments, bookings, hiring and appointments. I'm just getting a lot of sort of mundane issues that have really kind of thrown a wrench into what you thought was a pretty clear vision for how maybe your next few months would go. So I feel that all of those things have sort of clouded the situation, because intuitively I do see clouds sort of blocking or hindering the ability of the Ace of Chalices, Ace of Cups. That's also what this card would be known by. So in this deck specifically, there is a mothering element, and so they're advising you to continue nurturing that open heart. And so now they're giving me a new flow of information that has to do with romantic relationships. So the Ace of Chalices here, for those of you who are more called to the romantic undertones or aspect of this reading, they're advising you they're giving me like a wait sign. They're giving me wait. They're saying there's almost like an opening. There's like a potential path that has been clearing for you. You may have also just gotten wind of this. I'm getting that this may have to do with like the eclipse season that just started. But there's it's almost like you're at the bridge, and there's like or like a train crossing, and then it's about to go and to move and light up, but there's not time for you to move forward from that point. It's almost like you're paused and you're waiting for the all clear for movement to continue and for this sort of like situation to proceed. So that's very interesting. That has to do with, again, those of you who are dealing with this reading in terms of romantic relationships. So that was the Ace of Chalices, and I'm getting that it's a good moment to segue into the Knight of Chalices. So I hope you can see this. These cards are pretty reflective. So I'm hoping you can see the figure in this, which looks pretty different from the more traditional Rider-Waite deck, which shows a knight that looks maybe a little bit more, I don't know, definitely more watery, because I'm noticing now that this card is a bit more earthy with the forest surroundings. But with the Knight of Chalices, what ultimately this card has to do with, regardless of, the deck for the most part, it has to do with ambition in regards to what the heart feels and what the heart wants to pursue and what the heart desires. I'm definitely getting the words love and pursuit. So for the first set of you, where this has to do with sort of creative endeavors, I'm getting the feeling that you're gonna get some kind of green light in terms of pursuing what your heart desires. But they're saying this will probably have to happen on your own initiative. The Knight of Chalices, like all the knights basically, have a lot of momentum, and they're very inspired inspired to move forward in whatever way that, you know, each of them does in whatever way they do it specifically. So the Knight of Cups, again, that has to do with like generally like feelings, emotions, love, romance, intuition, art. So for those of you in where art is involved, they're saying that you are being encouraged to make the most of whatever inspiration strikes you. You're probably going to have to do this of your own initiative, as I mentioned. They're advising you not to wait per se for like openings to come to you. They're saying like make the most of your surroundings. They're saying like if you are trying to get deeper into your art practice or to make more music, to make more visual art, whatever it is, more graphics, they're advising you to just actively make the space and time to do this, because they're telling you like art doesn't wait. Like it doesn't happen on a whim. It doesn't happen on its own. It's something that you have to do, and it's something that you have to initiate. It's something that you have to make the intentions for, and not just make the intentions for, but really manifest that by carving out the space and time and really just doing it and not overthinking it, but sort of letting your gut feelings and your flow like move you forward and have that move your hands, rather than letting, you know, overthinking cloud your momentum and your energy in regard to your art practice, or, you know, being creative in whatever way that you are creative. So again, the Ace of Cups, I guess I was getting this in a more typically reversed manner in terms of maybe flow being impeded or blocked within the past several months, more so weeks, but they're advising you again to move past that and don't really wait for the last logistical issues to clear up. They're telling you like you have enough, you have more than enough of what you need to get going and to continue being inspired and to take action. So the last card that I'm getting is the Hanged Man. So for those of you, this goes for both of you actually in regards to romantic relationships and creative endeavors. The Hanged Man, they're advising you not to make a final decision in regards to what's going to happen. You know, I am actually getting some Five of Cups intuitively. This is more so for those of you for whom this reading applies in a romantic manner. So with the Five of Cups coming up, I'm getting this is almost like foreshadowing, and there may be some sadness, some disappointment, some miscommunication and misunderstanding in regards to your love life and those kinds of relationships that are going to pop up in this period, and especially in the coming months. So with the Hanged Man, they're advising you to kind of like take a step back and really reassess, and don't assume that you know what's going to happen. They are advising you to really take a deep breath, again, like I said, and just take a fresh perspective on it and let them come to you, let circumstances unfold. Like you don't have to make anything happen at this point. Like when things develop further on, like they're showing me the flow of events, the sequence of events, and this will come later on. This is sort of like the outcome card, at least a little while ahead. I'm getting, it could be a couple months to several months, but it's definitely not going to be maybe like around, you know, next week or the week after that. It's going to take a little bit of time to unfold. So with the Hangman, they're urging you, like when that time comes, like, you know, it's not going to be time for you to commit to any final say in regard to a relationship that's coming up, or that you're already involved in, or that may have reemerged in this time. And for those of you who are committed to your art practice, and I'm getting this especially for those of you who have creative work, maybe as sort of like a part-time hustle or a side hustle, or trying to bring this out more, they're advising you like just kind of wait and see for what's going to happen later on. I'm getting that this period, the sentiment they're showing is not much further out than 3 to 6 months. So they're saying like for that sort of longer term picture, they're saying that you're going to have to wait and see what circumstances are going to unfold for you, because at that point, when you get a little bit more information, then you can sort of like upright yourself and then figure out which way to move from there. Because as you can see from this card, it's really all about suspension. It's really all about, you know, inaction at the time and just really pausing. So again, that goes for two different facets today, two different groups of people, or maybe if you belong to both groups, these cards apply to those different experiences. This is again Ace of Cups, and then we had the Knight of Cups or Knight of Chalices, and then we had the Hanged Man. So Group 2, that was your reading for today. Okay, so next group up is group number 3, and this one, y'all had this really big striped white shell. So let's see what the cards have in store for group number 3. Okay, so first up we have the Devil card. And then we have the Queen of Wands. And then we have the Hanged Man. So, okay, for today's reading, for group 3, I'm actually getting a little bit of information on the personalities at stake in this situation. I'm getting that there's someone involved who is really fiery, maybe tempestuous, someone who really likes to get their own way, and I don't know, the word that comes to mind, I don't know if it's mischievous, but there's almost like a spiteful or very like open, maybe maliciousness or assertiveness. There's a sort of will. So at worst, this is someone who maybe has a bit of a temper, and maybe likes to act out on that. This may be someone that you're involved with or who is around in your life or could even represent you. At best, this person that's involved is really just likes to stick to the path where they want to go, and they're going to make that path happen and take form in the way that they want to, even if it requires some force or some changing of the landscape. So, what I'm getting first is, actually, I feel like for this reading, like all the cards just really go together, because for most of the time there is a sort of sequence to the cards that get laid out, but some of these cards are meant to be read together. So they want you to know with the Devil and with the Queen of Wands, again, what this personality is sort of like and what's at stake. It's just a bit of clarity in regard to what you're going through. I'm getting for some of you, this person may be manipulative, and this person, I am, to be honest, getting the words abuser. And I don't use that, lightly or to be flippant about the situation, but I am getting that there is someone who, they're kind of drawing my attention to this translation with Il Diavolo. Like, I'm getting the word diabolical. So again, this person, it may not even come off this strongly, because I feel like the personality that I'm talking about comes off so almost like a bit extreme when I'm describing it. But I am getting that this is someone who likes to get their own way and who sort of likes to say things in the manner that will get them what they want. So the spirit is telling me that you're a bit aware of this situation. You're aware of how this person communicates. For some of you, this may be a woman in your life. You're not being super specific on like what gender per se or limited. It really just depends on who you know and who you know that this reading applies to in your life. But I am getting that the Queen of Wands, they want you actually to adopt the behavior of the Queen of Wands and to be assertive in your own right, because they're telling me that it's almost like fight fire with fire a little bit. Like it's like a pinch of salt or a pinch of fire. It's just sort of like that kind of seasoning, something that you can take like in regards to your own energy and what you can bring forth to the situation in order to sort of like stand your ground. They are showing me intuitively a different tarot card, which is the Knight, not the Knight, but the Seven of Wands, which has to do with setting up for yourself. So with that being said, they are saying this is the time to break vices. They're saying that this is the time when like this person is really gonna pull and maybe push and tug a little bit because they're looking for a certain reaction from you. I feel like they don't really want to give up on the situation or this energy exchange that they've set up with you. I'm getting that this is a karmic relationship where, both of your souls may have experienced a situation in the past, or even a relationship between the two of you that has is relevant to this time, and it's a matter of clearing that and learning that lesson and moving forward. It could have happened between the two of you, or it could be a lesson that maybe both of you have experienced separately in previous lives and have come together in this lifetime to work out, so that you're kind of free of this dynamic in the sense that your soul has learned and finally truly evolved from it. So again, this is a time of breaking these karmic patterns and these lessons, and really moving forward and breaking free from kind of like this, I don't want to say darker side, but the side of you that that gives into relationships that aren't necessarily free and clear and of an easy flow, or not necessarily an easy flow, but it just isn't in your best interest. It sort of feels a little bit addictive or impulsive. It's just something that you know, something that's a habit. It's a conditioned habit that you know doesn't necessarily feel good on an ultimate, deeper spiritual level. So that's basically what the devil is about and what this relationship is tapping into. They're saying that there's almost like something, I see like an animal, almost like a mole or a gopher burrowing underground, but then maybe popping up later. So it's almost like, I feel like there's something now, and then like there's almost like a period of dormancy. And I don't know, I'm feeling like this may be put to rest, or there's a question of whether it'll pop up again in the future. And I'm getting the feeling that it's up to you and how you want to handle it. Again, so it's basically, they're saying like, it's up to you if you want to really break free of this now. And you're going to have to see in the future what the consequences of how you move now, like what those consequences to your actions are going to be. So, and you know what? Actually, that is why I was getting the animal burrowing through, but you don't know what's going to happen yet, because they're showing me the hangman. So actually that makes perfect sense for what I just described, because I am seeing the hangman as sort of a suspension, and it's a period of inaction. It's not really moving forward with anything or instigating anything. It's just not an active time. It's more a matter of suspending what you're doing, taking a break from the situation. It just feels like there's almost like a lull, and that's going to come up a little bit further on. And you're going to be taking a break from the situation. And after that point, I think Spirit will probably show you what you have in store. I mean, obviously, but they're showing me the Wheel of Fortune in terms of it being sort of like up to fate. And I'm seeing the Judgment card intuitively. And they showed me the Wheel of Fortune, if I didn't just say that already. But those cards having to do with not retribution, but distribution of justice, and sort of like the law of the universe, like distributing things in accordance with what has been done, in accordance with what is your fair share, apart from karma that has to be lived. But it's a matter of actions having their own due and just effects in the matter of universal spiritual law to some extent. So again, like, rest assured, like they're telling you, like, don't have fear, like this is all playing out as it's meant to play out. It's part of your it's part of like karmic patterning and potentially breaking free of those things and breaking free of those patterns and that dynamic. But they're telling you, like, it's okay also if the situation hasn't totally come to rest, because this is sort of just maybe coming to a head, or it's a matter of realizing the situation for what it is. So again, this was sort of a short reading, and most of these are pretty short readings for some of you that are dealing with all the different things in these specific pick a card situations. This one, has to do with a specific personality type. They're also telling me archetype. They're telling me arcane, so it's something that doesn't resonate with you anymore. Again, that's what this sort of period of quarantine wants you to realize and recognize, is that it's a period of shedding and of breaking free and of realizing what you don't want to follow and what you don't want to come out with you at the other end of this period of change for you personally. So again, that was group 3, and we're moving on to the next group. Okay, next up we have group 4, which is this really cute little seashell. It's orange with the starburst or sunburst pattern on it. Hopefully that's in focus. Here we go. We're going to see what cards Spirit wants to show for you today, and this is for group 4. Okay, group 4, so the cards that Spirit has for you today are the Wheel, and the 6 of Chalices, and the Moon. Ooh, so this is very interesting because we do have two major arcana cards here, and I'm getting that for the vast majority of you, this is in relation to familial relationships, so family dynamics, family relationships with specific relatives, and that some of these are in regard to parental relationships. So for those of you for whom this reading applies in regard to your parents, like you're gonna know that and you're gonna feel it. So for those of you who picked group 4, again, we have the wheel, 6 of chalices, and the moon. So for the wheel, I am just getting that there's a turning point, and they're giving me the words fate and destiny in regard to what is coming to light with a family member. And I am getting the 5 of cups. So with the 5 of cups, I am getting grief, some disappointment, and sorrow, and maybe some regret. And they are showing me a tombstone, and it says, rest in peace, rest in power. And so I'm just seeing that I'm getting almost like a montage or a flickering of different faces of different people for this grave. And I'm getting, for some of you, it's a literal passing away of someone who was dearly beloved by you and your family and your loved ones, or it could relate to someone's passing that you've heard of that is connecting to in a really deep level. But again, for some of you, this has to do with family relationships, and again, for some of you, this has to do with parents. And I'm getting almost like a changing of the guards or switching of the keys in terms of there being a key authority in your life. I'm getting that there are what is it? What word are they giving? They're giving me soul contracts at play, or there's just keys. I'm getting things that were written in script, things that were foretold, things that were set in heaven, or in the realm, the spiritual realm, apart or in tandem with this incarnate reality that all of us live in. But they want you to know that all of this was happening for a reason, and that there was a purpose, and that they're telling me, they're giving me a phrase like almost like secrets revealed, but they're also showing me someone like holding up like their finger to their lips, almost like a guide, and they're showing you and they're showing me into the library of the Akashic records. So for those of you who don't know what the Akashic records are, it's sort of like it's a library, it's a spiritual library of records of everything that has ever happened in like any universe, everything super small. So it's all information that could ever be recorded, and when it comes to specific souls, it contains Akashic records like on that person's previous lives, on the life that is happening now. It's just really a library that stands and encompasses everything that's happened across space and time. So yeah, it's a lot. If you're interested in it, go look into that. But they're showing us into this hall of records now, and they're showing me you, and they're showing us like previous lives, previous years, and they're showing me now this life, but that there's almost like not a spider, but there's almost like a network from this life, and then there's a faint thread that connects to other lives, and it's pulling it into this life and this experience that you're going through now, of some fear and sorrow. They're showing me intuitively the 4 of Pentacles, which has to do with being very reserved, being very guarded and weary and wary of things that are going on, and you don't feel like opening up to people. You're almost like holding back and recoiling into yourself, and especially to your nest and your shelter, your community of loved ones. Why? Out of a sense of, again, like I said, fear, because they are showing me, in my mind's eye, they're showing me a lot of mice, and mice in the attic, and they're showing me you, whoever you are, waking up in the attic, as the 9 of Swords, which is again another tarot card. They do show me tarot cards intuitively, so it comes to my mind's eye. And so what this has to do with, there's a lot going on. Like, y'all have a really in-depth reading, those of you in group 4 with the attic, that has to do with the higher self and your connection to spirit. And what I'm getting is like the death of a member. They're showing me different words, and it's kind of coming quickly. It's maybe the death of a relative or the passing of a relative, and they're showing me the word lifetime too, and what does it mean to have a life, to be alive, and to come to that fruition and that culmination of that period of time. It's like there's sort of an existential crisis for some of you, and a matter of reevaluation of belonging, and where do you belong in this world, and what is your life going to be like? What does it mean for you to be alive in this time where there is so much peril for people all over the world in so many different ways? Obviously, there is a pandemic going on, and for some of you, that has taken a toll. It has taken a toll on your families, on different loved ones, people in your community, in so many different ways. And often that is, like this reading is showing literal, and it takes a physical toll in terms of some people, not emerging from this period with us as they were before. So with the wheel and the library, they're showing that just some of this experiences connects to your past lives, and it's a culmination and a fruition of things that you we're learning in those lives, and it comes into play here. It's relevant, and they were showing me soul contracts because they wanted you to know that these things aren't random and by chance, but that there were things set up so that events would happen in the way that they did, or in the way that they're happening right now, as things are continuing to unfold for you, and in your family members as well. So going off of that, they're showing me the Six of Cups, and this has to do with reminiscing. It has to do with some nostalgia and some bearing upon the past and bringing that into the future, and really reflecting. And they're showing me again the Five of Cups as a signifier, an additional signifier, additional detail, and the Four of Pentacles. So all of those things having to do with I'm getting a mix of different emotions. I'm getting joy, and again, positive nostalgia, and remembering beautiful, happy times from your childhood, especially, or memories that you had of a time that used to be, and especially how things were in your family and in your household. And they're showing me a hearth, and they're showing me now you, again, like whoever you are, you're almost like sitting by the fire. I don't know. Well, I just saw mention the movie, but they're showing me a movie scene where someone's sitting by the fire, and they're very emotional, and they're crying, and they're just kind of like overcome with these emotions. But I also see you just chipping at wood. It's almost like you're carving something. So I see that you're carving a figurine of a bear, and so this is, and as you carve the bear, I'm also getting a feeling of like a great big cloak. A fur cloak, or a cape being draped over your shoulders. So it's a time where you're coming to terms with your personal strength. It's a time of a very harrowing grief, and just really heaviness and a sorrow. And I can feel that the weight of that sadness, but it's also sort of like a crowning of seeing what you're capable of and what you can endure. And it's a really a time for you to really relish just how precious and how fleeting life is. It's really a moment where you're learning not to take anything for granted, and you're seeing everything in a really new light, a lot of different elements of your life and of yourself. And so it's, not to say that strength comes without a price. It certainly does. This is something that many of you are feeling, and especially those of you in this group, in group 4, with this sunburst shell. And I don't feel that it was a coincidence that you all got this one with this pattern, because I'm feeling that right now this crisis is pushing you and really calling on you to tap into your inner light and to see the balance that there is in the world, and there is in life, where there is joy, where there is sorrow, and there is value in things being taken away, not value in it being taken away, but in terms of making you or helping you realize the value of things that can be lost, and really understanding presence, and it's really understanding the vulnerability of an existence that comes and goes, in terms of, souls being incarnate in this reality, and souls being present with us in a physical way. So some of you are really dealing with loss, and I'm getting some of you may even be dealing with loss that happened maybe, I'm trying to get a feel of how far back this goes, but even maybe several months ago, there were, some deaths in the collective, or that happened on kind of a larger scale. And, for some people, you've had to deal with people passing even before the emergence of this pandemic and before the emergence of coronavirus. But so I'm just getting a lot of bearing of reflecting on the past, and seeing sort of how things relate across space and time, and really cherishing the fragility, not necessarily the fragility, but the preciousness of what comes to light and what we experience for such a limited amount of time in this world. Okay, so with the moon card coming up, this is a major arcana card. This is also a pretty challenging card. They're saying that there's still going to be some psychological, maybe confusion, some sadness, some despair, resentment. I'm just getting a lot of these things. They're giving me the word agony as well. It's just going to be a lot of your shadow side or your deeper psyche coming out. And it's a lot of the subconscious and like the inner child self. It's really about you coming to terms with vulnerability in this world and a feeling of great sorrow in terms of questioning how you can move forward, because you know that you're not going to be the same person that you were prior to this year of 2020. 2020 has been such a difficult time for so many people, and they're letting you know that this phase for you isn't necessarily over, but they're advising you to really understand that this period of upheaval and crisis is happening for a reason, and they're letting you know that it's not necessarily over for you yet, but they're also sending in healers to work with you. So for those of you in this group, they're advising you to call upon your healers in spirit, or to call upon healing or love from the universe to be with you at this time and to comfort you, because this is a period where a lot is just going to come out from sort of like your psychological underbelly. It's fears about vulnerability. I'm seeing those of you with grappling with the vulnerability that comes with losing, especially a caregiver or a parent, someone who's very close to you and who looked over you and who you thought would be present and would be witness to your accomplishments and your life experiences moving forward. And so this is a really tough time for those of you on, and you're still going to be processing from this point on. That's what the moon card wants you to know. And they're letting you know again, like all these sort of more, quote unquote, negative emotions are just part of the process, and it's part of healing. It's a part of finding strength and finding peace, ideally for those of you who are dealing with all of this. So again, they're advising you to call on your healers. They're letting you know the process isn't over. Of course, it's going to take time, and they're letting you know you're not going to be different. And they're advising you, to call upon, especially friends, family members who are in the physical. If you need help, if you need support, they don't want you to feel alone. They really don't want that, because they want you to know that, again, I'm seeing that scene of those of you inside the attic and feeling afraid and feeling so panicked and just almost like anxious and just really unable to come to terms with your thoughts and your feelings, are showing me that there's almost like people at the door and they're like almost knocking. They're like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you want us to come in? So, there are people who still care about you, and they're advising you to remember that those people are still around and not to forget about them. You're still dealing with, the people who have maybe recently passed or not with you at this time. You're feeling their absence and distance from people in the physical, but they're advising you to also take to heart there are people who are close to you and who want to be closer to you and who want to show their support. And they're reminding you to draw love from all places, all resources that are available to you. So group 4, that was your reading for today. This one was a bit of a more serious one, but just know that your friends in spirit are sending you much love, and that for those of you who are coming to terms with someone who has transitioned back into the spiritual plane, like they're going through their own healing process as well, and they want you to take heart and have faith that things are happening as they're meant to. And again, don't be shy or reserved about seeking guidance or love from others and from spirit, from the universe and the world around you, and continue calling in love and continue calling in healing, and know that there's more for you and there's more light for you to embrace in this world. And it comes up oftentimes that double-edged cost of knowing what it's like to experience darkness and sadness and sorrow. So those of you in group 4, I'm sending you a lot of love today. If any of you have questions, feel free to let me know. Okay, those of you in group 5, we have this beige cream colored shell with the black stripes jutting outwards. So now I'm going to shuffle the deck and we're going to see what Spirit has to show for you in regard to what you're learning and experiencing during, this stage of pandemic and, again, personal change. Okay, so group 5, the cards that Spirit would like to show for you today are the Knight of Pentacles, the Chariot, and the Seven of Pentacles. So I'm getting that this is for those of you for whom work is a really prominent issue at this time. I mean, obviously that would probably go for most of us, but you know, for those of you who picked this seashell and are part of this group, like work is just the subject that Spirit would like to talk to you about right now. So I'm getting the feeling in terms of context that there's been, you know, some upheaval, but it's been sort of like rumbling and under the surface. I'm getting there hasn't been as much that has really changed in the way that you feel like it might change or is changing beneath the surface. I'm just kind of getting like a feeling of metamorphosis, of like you kind of like changing and experiencing growing pains in a more internal way, and not really feeling the same in regards to your working environment, not really feeling like that's a place where you are super at home in the way that maybe you used to, or maybe where you were just more okay with it. Just right now, it's a period of internal change and coming to terms with what you feel in regard to your work situation and what your career is like at the moment. But they're showing me the distance almost like a huge like bomb going off. So it's sort of like, you know that this is happening, you know that this is coming. You can almost like feel it, like the repercussions and the effects coming towards you. I feel like for some of you, there may be like a toppling of management. There may be some administrative switch arounds, or changes to personnel, or restructuring of the company that you work for. If you are indeed working at a company, obviously for those of you who are freelancing or doing other things, then, you know, specific details might not apply to your situation. Okay, so I am getting, you know, the Knight of Pentacles. That's what we have first. Hopefully you can see that clearly. But the Knight of Pentacles, this is what Spirit is advising you to do. They're ushering you to be patient and to wait. There, I can feel, again, like I said, I felt a bomb going off in the distance, and then sort of like the impact of that and that force moving towards you. They're advising you not to like I don't feel for me that there's any rush to run in any particular direction. I feel that there's still more to come, and there's still more events to unfold, at least as of now. But again, what Spirit is really trying to advise you here to do is to really take stock of where you're at. And that actually goes with the Seven of Pentacles card that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But actually, you know, I can weave all these cards together because they do flow really well, and I feel like they just interweave and interlock. Because I'm getting the Knight of Pentacles again, and the Chariot, and the Seven of Pentacles. So it's really a matter of you keeping your head on straight and firm and standing your ground and kind of staying where you're at. I don't feel that there's any rush or any compelling reason for you to switch gears about where you are, even though there is kind of like some tumult happening institutionally, or in regards to maybe the field where you work, or maybe your specific company. There's just the energy right now is just for you to really stick to what you're doing, stick to the workload that you have, and really just assess the situation as it comes, and really keep in mind like that you want to be oriented towards your long-term goal. Like there's just changes coming up, and I'm getting for some of you, this may apply to teachers in terms of more specific careers, but it's just really a matter of like doing things day by day, and knowing that will hopefully align with the vision that you have for the future, which, you know, as of right now is not totally certain. But again, they're letting you know that in light of the situation, in light of so many uncertainties happening globally for people and personally, they just want you to keep your steady momentum going. Like you're not necessarily changing course, you're keeping to the course that you've already set out on. That is the meaning of the Chariot card, which again has to do with self-discipline, and keeping momentum going and keeping forward. It's really all about a forward track from you, and really assessing the situation as it changes and as circumstances unfold over the coming months. And I'm getting especially up to a year, like I'm getting further down the road, maybe several months down the road, or maybe up to a year down the road. A year is a bit long, but I'm getting at least several months from now. There may be some structural changes that were at that point where you can maybe pivot or decide, because I'm almost seeing like a lever or like a pointer that could go like either direction. And the words that I'm getting above that, it says up to you. So that will come up in the future. That's what Spirit is telling me is most likely as of this present moment. But for now, they're really saying just stick to what you're doing, like it's working and it's fine. And, even though that there's going to be some maybe top-down changes that are coming, like at this point, like they're almost saying like they're giving me kind of like unaffected and then like kind of. So it's almost saying like, there's not so much that you have to really worry about right now where, it would force you or compel you to really like make a drastic 180. Again, this is all about moving forward and sticking to what you've already set in motion, what's already being played out. So with the Seven of Pentacles, this has a lot to do with what I've already said. The Seven of Pentacles having to do with assessing, how far you've come and where you want to go from that point forward. I think at this point, with the Seven of Pentacles, they're showing me maybe a few months out. They're giving me the number, I'm getting like 4, 6, 7. So kind of that time period of like months from now. I feel like these are key points. I'm especially getting the 4 and the 7. So 4 months from now, especially for those of you that's kind of like in the fall as from the time of this filming. But again, if you're picking this reading up at a later point in time and it's still, resonant for you, then know that this time period just applies to your point, your present moment, whatever that present moment is for you, regardless of date, month, season. This is just me saying, if you're seeing this in June or July, the summer, then the 4 months out, I'm getting that that's going to be later on in the year. And then like the 7 months forward, there's going to be that another period of change where it's going to be like a turning point. So again, for those of you who are not viewing this during the summer, around the time when I'm posting the video, know that timeline still applies to you with the 4 months and then the 7 months. 6 months, there may be some sort of like foreshadowing or an omen I'm getting, but then with the 7 months, that's kind of when you're going to get another new chapter, sort of like they're showing me almost like a cliffhanger, and the next chapter is right next to when they're showing me chapter 7, again reaffirming the energy of 7 for this part of the reading and for this stage of what you're going through. So again, 7 of Pentacles, that has to do with assessing how far you've come and where you want to go from there. It's sort of like seeing the fruits of your labor and seeing, all right, do I want to keep nourishing this harvest that I have, or do I want to reap what I've sown? Do I want to kind of like take what I've already manifested and maybe redirect that elsewhere, redirect my energy, or do I kind of want to keep sticking to what I'm doing? I'm seeing 4 of Pentacles come up right now. I'm also seeing 7 of Wands. So it's a matter of like, do I want to, stick to what I've already been growing and kind of not cling to that, but kind of hold on to that and keep standing up for it and fighting for it. Or, there's, for some of you, it may feel rationally compelling to want to do something else and redirect to something else, but I'm getting the feeling of the 4 of Pentacles and the 7 of Wands to your left, which has to do with like a heart and intuitive pull. So for many of you, you're going to feel like sticking with the career that you've chosen is still going to be a good move for you, even though you've experienced so much upheaval and maybe crisis in the industry within these past couple months, several months, and then even moving forward, there's going to be more structural changes for you in your company. And for some of you, again, the specific place where you work. I do feel that this mostly applies to people who have like set jobs and day jobs, not as much for freelancers, but if this applies to you in regard to the work that you do and you're not working like at one specific company, then of course, you can take to heart whatever details, whatever specific guidance that Spirit relayed through this reading at this time. So again, that was the last group for today, group 5. If any of you, have questions or want a more personalized reading, that's something that you can, of course, contact me about. So thank you again to group 5.